Good evening.
Good evening.
This is not about illegal immigration, but I'm going to use the word once. I'm here to ask tonight for your leadership. I know that you cannot solve problems unless you know what they are. My support for alternative candidates in the last election was not about illegal immigration. It was about management, and my experience was that the board was not managing on that issue or on others. And I would like to explain to you and the people watching tonight some of the problems that I have experienced with the board and the village. I would try to help you, but you need to start to help yourself. I was required to post a $200,000 letter of credit for excavation work regarding flood compensatory storage on the project at 10 West Main. The work was completed prior to our occupancy in November of 2006. I have asked for the return of that bond, and the contractor has told me continually that he gets additional information requests. Finally, on June 18th, we received a letter from the village stating that the detention and compensatory storage has been approved. I still do not have my letter of credit released. Over 2 weeks ago, I mailed several trustees asking for their help. I heard from no one except Trustee Teeter, who acknowledged that she received my email. She has since acknowledged that she has looked into this issue. However, what I would say to the board is either you did nothing or you're very ineffective, because now the city has written to the bank asking them to extend my letter of credit for another year. I want my money back now. Let me go on. I've been trying to get a permit to tear down the building at 36 East Main. The building has been abandoned for several years, and I bought it in the interest of cleaning up the town. I would hope you would have the same interest. We applied for the permit on June 6th. Here's my saga. And let me not impugn any village employee. I'm just going to tell you what I was told by my facilities manager. Our facility manager called Chris Sedapani at the underground department on June 6th to start the process of removing utilities. He was not in, and after leaving 2 messages, he called Bob Cole, who, although he was not in, the secretary referred us to Dean Corder, who confirmed that Chris was the right person to see. Go figure. We then called Scott Marquardt on the 11th, who was not in, and we were referred to Bob Scardino. That was good, but he referred us to Cindy McCamick, who referred us back to Chris. Although messages were left for everybody, and some were not expected to call back, Cindy was not expected to call back, no one who was asked to call back did call back except Scott Marquardt on the 13th. Now, Chris Sedapani always calls back. That is a terrific public servant. And my facility manager has had such bad experience with this process so far, he thinks you told him not to call him back. Now, on the 13th of June, we precipitated a meeting on the site. And we were told that since we were going to landscape the area, which is traditionally what I have done when we have a vacant parcel, that we were going to landscape it into a park, what we were told is we needed to put in a drinking fountain and benches. There's no requirement for this in any part of the village code. Additional items were so arbitrary that I sent a letter to Craig Anderson asking that he give me a list of the things that would be required, because we were tired of the verbal I wants that we had been receiving. I also suggested that he look at the list before it was sent. I received the list on the 22nd of June. One of the requests on the list was for 3 copies of a landscape plan for berms, grass, and trees. Now, I took the building down at 40 East Main, right next door. There was no landscaping requirement, and the area is all stone. Now, I called Craig to review the list and this requirement, and he said it was required to assure that sight lines were not blocked. Now, that building occupies the entire site, the entire site. Anything would have been better than those sight lines, than the building, and there is no code requirement that you can't, and there is a code requirement you can't put anything within 25 feet of an intersection anyways. This is a routine demo. The process has gotten way too cumbersome. Now, I've asked trustees to look into this. I've heard from no one. And I still do not have a permit, and over 5 weeks have gone by. So what do? I've gone to the board to ask for their help, and I have heard nothing. I've gone to the staff, and I get arbitrary requirements that change from project to project. Trustee Ritter, you will recall a meeting that I asked President Sardo to call because I was frustrated on another project. So you and I and Craig and President Sardo sat down to review the inconsistent requests that I had received regarding getting my bond back at 10 South Washington. I think you were appalled at the village's requests, and halfway through the meeting you said you've seen enough. I think we need to move from the arbitrary I wants to the more consistent, defined village needs. You need to manage. I'm going to ask you 3 things. Can I have one more?
Absolutely.
I'll give you 1 more minute, yes.
I'm going to ask you 3 things. I want my letter of credit returned. Second, I want you to review the permit process for 36 Main now. Get that done. And second, I would suggest that you need to get more involved in leadership of this village. I would suggest that you develop some metrics to find out how good the village is. Measure the customer service. How long does it take to get an average permit? How long does it take to get a bond returned? I would suggest that you implement a customer feedback questionnaire for permit holders to determine their satisfaction. Fewer than 5% of the village voted for the people that were elected in the last election. If you want your village to improve, you need to make sure you get involved. 5% to vote them in does not speak for the village. Now I got a separate note. There is part of the sidewalk at Main Street and 10 West Main and the bridge in front of Otto that was not finished. And I talked to Scott Marquardt about this, and what he said was, well, it should have been done with the town funds. And I said, well, I'll pay for it. And he says, no, we got a volunteer group to do this. And I said, I don't want a volunteer group to do this. That's not fair. I would be embarrassed to have a volunteer group to do this. Well, on Monday I found out that Scott Marquardt personally went and put those bricks in. And I think that was way above the call of duty, and I think he should be thanked for that. Do you have any questions for me?
I do.
Trustee Humfer?
Mr. Roeser, I'd ask in the future.
There is no time for questions at this point, so.
Well, I would ask in the future if he's going to refer to the whole board. I did not receive your email.
Your email was bounced back to me.
And I did not either.
I did not either.
Yeah, I never received anything, so you caught me completely in the dark here.
Yes.
I don't know where the communication breakdown
I did not
came.
email each.
Okay, that's why I didn't get it.
I did get it, and I think you also copied Trustee Sigwalt and Trustee Teeter.
And I did forward it on to Manager Anderson, and Manager Anderson and we had a discussion, and he said that he was going to get in touch with you.
Well, leadership does not start by just delegating it away. I don't have my compensatory storage.
I have dealt and helped you before, so you can't really say that we're all shirking our duties.
If you have a management issue, I would help you if you'd ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Harry?